Most people think riders modify their motorcycles for one simple reason: to go faster, to look cooler, or to impress other people. That's the explanation you'll hear from almost everyone. But psychology suggests there's something much deeper going on. Because if performance were the only goal, many riders would stop after installing a few upgrades. Instead, they keep changing something: a new exhaust, different handlebars, fresh tires, a custom seat, another tune, another adjustment. The project never truly ends. And strangely, they're happiest when they're working on the bike, not when they're finished. So why? Today, we're exploring the psychology behind people who constantly modify their motorcycles. Because this behavior has surprisingly little to do with horsepower, and everything to do with identity, control, and something I call mechanical empathy. Stay until the end, because I'll reveal the rare psychological trait shared by many lifelong builders, a trait that explains why they can never leave a motorcycle completely stock. Let's start by understanding what mechanical empathy really means. Mechanical empathy isn't about memorizing engine specifications or knowing every torque value. It's the tendency to emotionally connect with a machine by understanding it, improving it, and making it uniquely your own. People with high mechanical empathy don't simply own motorcycles. They build relationships with them. Every modification becomes a conversation. The rider changes the machine changes the riding experience, and the riding experience changes the rider. It's a continuous psychological feedback loop. Research shows that people naturally value things they've personally invested time and effort into. That's why every bolt tightened, every fairing replaced, every late night spent in the garage makes the motorcycle feel less like a product and more like a part of who you are. Now let's explore the traits that reveal this mindset. You rarely leave anything completely stock, not because the manufacturer built a bad motorcycle, but because factory motorcycles are designed for everyone. You want yours designed for you. Every modification becomes a signature: different handlebars, different mirrors, different exhaust, different suspension. Each change quietly communicates something about your personality. Psychologists call this identity expression. Instead of telling people who you are with words, you let the motorcycle tell the story. You're not chasing uniqueness for attention. You're chasing authenticity. You want your machine to feel like an extension of yourself. That's why even the smallest upgrade can bring genuine satisfaction. Think about where you go after a stressful day. For many riders, it's not a crowded place. It's the garage. You don't always go there because something needs fixing. Sometimes you go there because you need fixing. Working with your hands narrows your attention. The noise inside your mind becomes quieter. Deadlines disappear. Arguments fade. Anxiety loses its grip. All that's left is the sound of tools, the smell of fuel, and the next bolt waiting to be tightened. Psychologists describe this as entering a flow state. Your brain becomes fully absorbed in one meaningful task. The garage stops being a workspace. It becomes a place where your thoughts finally slow down. That's why some of the most peaceful moments in a rider's life happen without ever starting the engine. Here's something many people don't understand. Most builders never actually want the motorcycle to be finished, because finishing the project means the journey ends. Your brain is wired to enjoy anticipation. Every planned modification becomes something to look forward to. Every saved paycheck, every package arriving at your door, every weekend installation creates another small burst of motivation. The motorcycle isn't just improving. You're constantly giving yourself a reason to stay excited. The project becomes a living source of purpose. And purpose is one of the strongest psychological drivers humans have. To most people, an engine is just making noise. To you, it's speaking. A slight vibration, a smoother throttle, a deeper exhaust note, a tiny difference in clutch engagement. These details rarely escape your attention. Your brain develops an incredibly detailed sensory map of your motorcycle. After enough miles, you know when something feels different long before a warning light appears. That's not obsession, it's familiarity. The same way musicians notice tiny changes in sound, experienced riders notice tiny changes in mechanical behavior. the motorcycle becomes something you understand almost instinctively. Life doesn't always make sense. Careers change, relationships end, plans fail, the future feels uncertain. But motorcycles operate differently. Every adjustment creates a measurable result. Every improvement has a clear cause. Inside the garage, chaos becomes order. Psychologists believe humans naturally seek environments where effort produces visible progress. Modifying a motorcycle satisfies that need perfectly. Sometimes changing your bike isn't really about changing the bike. It's about reminding yourself that you still have the power to improve something. That feeling becomes deeply reassuring, especially during difficult periods of life. Here's the secret reason many riders never stop modifying. It isn't because the motorcycle is incomplete, it's because they are still growing. Every challenge teaches patience. Every mistake teaches resilience. Every repair teaches confidence. Every successful modification reinforces the belief that difficult problems can be solved. Over time, the motorcycle quietly shapes the person working on it. The machine becomes a mirror. Every improvement reflects personal growth. That's why people with strong mechanical empathy don't measure success by how expensive the motorcycle becomes. They measure it by how much they've learned along the way. And that's the rare psychological trait I promised at the beginning. The riders who modify their motorcycles the most aren't driven by perfection. They're driven by evolution. Growth becomes part of their identity. Standing still feels uncomfortable. Learning feels rewarding. Building feels meaningful. At its deepest level, modifying a motorcycle isn't about creating the perfect machine, because perfection doesn't exist. It's about creating something that tells your story. Every scratch carries a memory. Every upgraded part represents another chapter. Every ride adds another layer to your identity. The motorcycle becomes physical evidence of your journey through life. Maybe that's why so many riders look back at their motorcycle after parking. Not because they're admiring expensive parts, but because they're looking at thousands of hours of memories, lessons, failures, victories, and personal growth. They're not just seeing a motorcycle, they're seeing a piece of themselves. So here's a question for you. When you modify your motorcycle, are you really changing the machine? Or are you changing yourself one ride at a time? Let me know your answer in the comments. And if this video helped you understand yourself in a way few people ever could, subscribe to RPM Psychology, because sometimes the most fascinating machine you'll ever understand is the mind behind the handlebars.